Okay, so I'm going to start over. Hi, my name is Mark Stevenson. I'm the marketing guy who apparently cannot run this this webinar software anymore for Coldesi, and I have with me Don Copeland, who you already saw his head once. There he is again. A few housekeeping things before we get started, and the first one is if you cannot see or hear for some reason, occasionally when we switch back and forth between the camera and the computer screen, there's a little bit of a delay. You may want to click away and click back again. If you're watching us on an iPad, you're almost guaranteed to have a problem at some point. We're doing everything we can to make sure it's great for you guys. We're also recording this. We can't help if there's technical problems on your end, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to switch to our computer screen. So you're going to lose camera, and you're just going to see the computer screen, and I am going to walk through some stuff. And the first thing that I want to tell you guys about is hopefully you got to this webinar by taking a look at caswebinars.com. What we've done is we've combined our webinars with Coleman & Company, with Deco Network, with George Knight, heat presses, and we're trying to develop a platform here where you can see what's going on, and you can see all of the webinars that we're going to be having over the next month and decide which ones that you would like to attend. So this is the main website page. If you wanted more information on the one on heat presses we're having on Friday, for example, you would just click on it and hit register now, and then you would go through the process to register. If you want to just take a look at it in calendar mode, you just hit all events, and you go through here and you get a nice little pop-up on what we're going to be talking about. So I hope you will attend more of these as time goes on. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is the CAS podcast. If you're not a podcaster, CAS is Custom Apparel Startups, and a podcast is kind of an internet radio show. So basically, Mark Vila and I, he's the marketing director for Coleman & Company, get together. We try to do it once a week now and talk business, and we record that and we present it to you guys. So for example, here is our last podcast, is Tripping Over Pennies When Costs Don't Really Matter. And that takes a look at when it's a good idea to shop for supplies and when you should be on the phone with customers instead and what that looks like. We also did a podcast called Spaghetti Sauce and Apparel Decorating. I'm not even going to tell you what that one's about. Come here and hit the play button and you'll have to see for yourself. But there's a lot of great content here, between 30 minutes and an hour long. You can listen to it while you work, while you drive. It's good stuff. The other thing is our CAS Facebook group. Custom Apparel Startups Facebook group has more than 1,300 people now that are pretty much just like you. They are either trying to get into the business, thinking about getting into the business, they just started, they want to expand. It's a great place for you to exchange information with your peers. So for example, you know, we had somebody that they want to start a business, but they maybe can't get the financing. What can they get into for a little money? Here's another one where somebody is looking at adding an embroidery machine and wants to know which one they should get. There's all of this kind of great information and conversations that take place here, so I encourage you to sign up for that. And I think that's it. I guess the only other one that I will tell you guys about, because we're very proud of it, is our support site. And that is support.coldesi.com. We're the only people on the planet that want you to go visit our tech support website because it's great. You can you download here, you can see you've got training, in-house training. There's self-paced training on a lot of our machines. We've got embroidery machine support, DTG support, rhinestone and spangles. Most of the time, you'll be able to find a solution to just about any problem you're going to have with equipment there. You won't even have to call. So you should know about that support site as well. And I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to turn back on the camera, and then you guys are going to get to talk to Don Copeland about direct-to-garment printers. Just going to make this big so we can record it properly. Okay, Don, remember, this is the camera. This is the camera. Don't be like me and stare at the computer screen the entire time.
But I am so good.
This is the camera.
I'm so good looking. Good to see you.
That's not true.
Hey, that's true. Good one. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and understand this is kind of your deal. I'll be kind of guiding this car, but you're really driving. Tell me, hey, turn left ahead, whatever.
Yes.
Any questions you have at any point, shout them out or type them out. If you type in all caps, I'll assume you're shouting, and go from that point.
If you're actually shouting, we won't be able to hear you anyway.
Exactly right. Exactly right. but we're really here to kind of give a comparison for somebody who's getting into the DTG business of what machine do I start with. It is, we're almost our own worst enemy sometimes because we have two machines, right? But we have two machines for a reason. Machines that fit budgets, machines that fit needs of your business. And so that's why we have them. We want to try to clarify some of the differences. First, let's start off with the similarities. Print quality. We get this question all the time. Both machines are going to print equally as well.
Yes.
Given the same graphic, given the same operator, the same shirt style, same selections in the RIP software, which we'll show you here in a few minutes. Those are all going to give you net out the same net results on the shirt, similar costs in the print, the cost of output on ink, more or less, could be about a 20% difference higher on the Viper 2. It's kind of weird when you're looking at the screen. I thought I was touching the M2.
Right.
Right
Yeah,
there, right there we go. You got to think backwards, right?
Yeah.
My wife says I do that all the time anyway, so it's not a
You
problem.
do. You do. I'll back her up.
The Viper 2 is going to be about 20% more per shirt with each shirt printed for the same amount of ink. However, the M2 is going to be about 20 to 25% more cost than the machine.
Hey Don, let me ask you a question
Yes,
because we did kind of put startup in the title of the webinar. Could you just do a brief explanation on exactly what DTG is and what's happening?
Sure. DTG, straightforward. I would love to say that we, part of the DTG group, had incredible foresight and understanding and knowledge of where this was going to go almost 11 years ago when it all started. We just got dadgum lucky that we chose the name DTG as our brand name. And the industry is kind of known as the DTG marketplace now.
Yes.
DTG stands for direct to garment. What we're doing here is we're basically taking your graphics that you generate in your computer, photographs you bring in from your phone or your camera, whatever. We're bringing them in to a software that we'll show you in a bit here. It's called a RIP. It's basically a turbocharged print driver for your computers, for your printers, and you're printing them out straight onto a T-shirt, right? It's an inkjet printer. It's a really cool inkjet printer. Uses specialized inks, which are meant to print on fabrics, which are going to last when they're washed, are going to last when they're worn. So, I mean, that's the gist of what direct-to-garment is. It's, kind of a good way to phrase it. I haven't used it in quite a while. It allows your artist to think outside the screen. And, if you know anything at all about, artwork for screen printing, or if you've ever yourself gone in, and a lot of folks that are new to this industry, if you ever gone yourself in to get some shirts printed out for an event, and you have this great concept and this artwork, and you walk in, this awesome little piece of artwork, and you walk out with your tail between your legs, whimpering with this beautiful two-color design that the screen printer kind of forced you into,
right,
because your budget forced you there. That is eliminated when you go with direct-to-garment. And if you've ever done like shirts for a family reunion, and you go in and, there's all shapes and sizes. You got the grandkids or great-grandkids who might be in children's shirts. And then you got Uncle Bubba, that'd be me, who may be in a 2XL. And if you come up with a design for the family reunion, somebody's going to look foolish in it if you don't size the graphic, right? That's one of the things we bring special when you deal with digital. It's the same thing if any of you all come from the sign industry. It's the same revolution we went through in the sign industry about 15 years ago, where everything went from 1- and 2-color, 3-color vinyl job to digital printing out on vinyl. We're doing the same thing here, just to T-shirts.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of an overview. We actually did a pretty good podcast. I don't even know if you mentioned it. You didn't mention your podcast. We did the history of DTG.
Yeah.
We had Coldesi have been, blessed with the opportunity to be there at the start. This industry really launched back in October of 2004, and by January of 2005, we were in it.
Yeah.
So we've been at it since the genesis and have gotten to grow through it. But Mark and I did a podcast about a month or so ago that if you go up to the podcast, you can grab down a little bit of the history if you're kind of one of those buffs wants to know a little bit about the background.
And that's good if you're just starting out, definitely.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Do we have questions, or is that a hand? Is that a nudge?
Somebody's raised their hand. I don't know why.
Who's got their hand up?
Somebody's got their hand up.
Who has their hand up?
Scroll down there. We'll take a look.
A couple people.
Okay,
Sure. Okay, we got 1, 2. There's a couple. Were there questions, or you just putting your hand up because?
Raise your hand if you do not know why you're raising your hand.
Whoa, that's just great.
I like that.
All right. It looks like we're good to go.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. first, like I said, we talked about the similarities. Now let's talk about the differences. And really, the differences between the two machines are going to come down and fall into two categories. The first and most obvious one is as you look at them, this machine's smaller, okay? Doesn't mean it prints smaller, okay? The print area on this machine is 16 and a half inches across, 24 inches that way. So if we go east-west, 16 and a half, north-south, 24. However, this machine is 24 east-west, 16 and a half
Right.
in the north-south direction. That makes this machine more efficient. Every time I stroke, I'm physically printing two shirts, and you'll see when we print here in a minute. So I'm getting a little bit of efficiency built in. That's where a lot of the speed and efficiency comes in on it. Now, I do not want to take this and throw it in the back of my SUV and go to the dog show, the horse show, the cat show, whatever it is, right? They do
Right.
cat shows? I don't think they cat shows.
No, nobody cares.
You gotta
There's a
you
cat
gotta
show.
be careful because when you offend cat people,
I know, they'll come after you.
blow up your car.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're doing something that requires heavy production, you're going to be doing a lot of shirts, grinding away, putting it in your shop, set it and forget it. Definitely a machine to look at. If you're limited on space, if you're thinking you're going to need to go portable with your machine at some point for some
Yeah.
type of event, okay, the machine's under 32, it's like 31 and 7/8 inches wide.
Fits through a door.
Fits through any door.
Yeah.
All right.
Only
Except
one
for
on the
RV.
market right now.
And we were corrected in our last one.
Except in
for
RVs.
RV, and the customer informed me we live in one, so we know.
Okay.
So another thing to think about is if you're a home-based business, right, and you don't happen to live in Florida, where we have Florida, you know, with the big sliding glass
Yeah.
door, this is going to fit through any standard door that you have. Another differentiation there between the Viper2 and the M2. Another really big differentiation between the two machines is going to be the size of the motors in it. So if you're running your machine, let's say more than 300 or 400 shirts in a month, right? You're literally, I mean, in a week, you're literally going to want to look at this machine. It's got a better duty cycle.
Yes.
We have somebody asking a question.
I just wanted to get this out of the way so people that are watching this on a recording don't have to look at the
The
little screen there the whole time.
Okay, I got you. I was wondering what Mark was pointing
Yeah.
at something. Now I'm hiding then. I was trying to hide my figure.
Okay.
Mark, sorry.
Well, yeah.
But no, really it comes down to what kind of load. This machine will handle 100 shirts in a day. Don't get me wrong. If I was going to be printing 100 shirts a day, every day, 5 days a week, I would opt for this machine simply because this machine was designed to be in heavy work environments.
Right.
And the components that will wear out. Motors wear out eventually, right? The motors on these don't wear out. We don't replace the motors on these machines. Our largest user ever was running 30-plus machines like this, and during their peak, they were running the machine 16 to 18 hours a day. We replaced 0 motors on those machines in 2 years.
Wow.
All right? It's just, you take a standard direct-to-garment printer, and if you were to put it under that duress, you would be replacing motors, because you're literally running a machine when you're working like that. You're running a machine at about a 4 to 5x workload of the average printer
Right.
in the marketplace.
Now we've got a question. Will both of them print on dark shirts?
Absolutely. All of our printers, and we get that question, and
It's an
every
old
printer we
question.
sell, it's an old question. Every printer we have sold, for the most part, since about 2006,
Right.
has printed on dark shirts. That's another benefit when you're looking at us, you know, to kind of segue a little bit away from the comparison of the two
Yeah.
machines, because a lot of our folks are probably comparing us to other brands as well, is we've been doing this, guys. We've been doing this for a long time. My lead technician, Bill, he's actually at Fort Worth right now at a trade show. Bill has been my lead tech here since almost the very beginning. I think we started with the DTG brand, first started shipping them in late 2005, and Bill started in early 2006.
Wow.
So he's been here for a very long time. There are other guys that have been here quite a long time, but we've been at it longer than anybody active in the industry. The DTG brand is the longest branded name in the entire marketplace for DTG. Obviously, Brother, who's one of our competitors, I can say that. If you don't know they exist, you haven't done any homework.
And they actually sell a printer that will not print on dark.
They are the
shirts.
only ones to do exactly
That's
right.
crazy.
But the Brother machines came out within a month or so after our first machine shipping.
Right.
So we can kind of, you know, we definitely are in the same class.
Right.
But, you know, we are since the genesis, and this is what we do, all right? We sell apparel decoration equipment. The family that owns this company here has been doing apparel decoration literally for almost 40 years now, Get a question.
What is the optimal environment for operation? Humidity, temperature, etc.
Nice, great question, Jeff. We usually don't get great questions like that right off the
Yeah,
bat.
it's usually.
And it is a concern when you work with any direct-to-garment printer. If you're in the eastern United States, your only concerns are generally during the winter when you're running dry heat, right? Because everything east of the Mississippi is pretty humid. Typically, the machines like to be in the mid 40s to around 60% operating range. If you were, what would I say is optimal? Around 50, 55% would be ideal, but you certainly can live in the upper 40s to around 50% humidity. Temperature usually isn't a concern because nobody wants to freeze when they're printing. But, you know, when you start to get down into the low 50s and into the 40s, we start to see the ink start to slow down just because they start to thicken up because they're getting colder. But typical, if you're comfortable in the environment, typically it's about right. Main thing is kind of watching that humidity. We don't have one stuck on here, but we have hygrometers that we buy off Amazon for about $10.
Yes.
That if you're in an environment, let's say you're out west, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, any place like that, you want to get a hygrometer, keep it on this machine, you would keep it on this side, that machine, keep it on that side. It's where the capping station is to kind of monitor your humidity. Basically put in a what's the word I'm looking for? Humidifier.
There you go.
A humidifier. I started to say dehumidifier because we're in Florida, right? A humidifier in the environment of the printer. I don't have to turn this whole room into a swamp, but it needs to be swampy near my printer.
Yeah.
Or you live in a dry area, right? And so that's why you put it on the side. Because the challenges with a marginally dry environment are not during printing. The challenges with a marginally dry environment are during rest periods. So you just need to keep the area where the print head is resting, which is on this side of both machines. Make sure it's in a good humidity level.
We've got another question. Do they have the same ink consumption?
Yes, given the same design, same size, same resolution chosen to print, you are going to consume virtually the same amount of ink. So if it looks the same on the shirt, guess what? Then you probably used about the same amount of ink.
Yes.
So what is
What is your typical maintenance cost expectation, and can you leave it for a week on vacation?
You know, Heather, I talked to your husband today. He says you're not allowed to have any time off this year. So it doesn't matter. No, literally, what is your ink, your consumption? If you're doing your regular maintenance on the machine, you're looking at a couple bucks a day probably. You're doing head cleanings, and when you factor in on this machine, we have a WIMS filter, which is $12, right? And you're going to replace that once a month. It's a scheduled component. So, you know, typically you can figure in the area, say $10 a week would be a fair number for normal routine maintenance. Can you leave the machines for a week of vacation? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. You keep them plugged in and turned on. It is absolutely acceptable to do that. You want to shorten that window up as much as possible. I don't mean shorten your vacation. What I mean is if you're, you know, a typical 1 week vacation for a lot of people would be 9 days.
Right.
You'd actually leave on a Friday, come back on a Monday. So what I would say you do is right before you leave on Friday, execute a couple of head cleanings on the machines, make sure your normal maintenance you would do after operation is done. And then the first thing when you come in on Monday morning is start head cleanings again. So I can, you know, just by doing that alone, I can shorten that period up.
So there are things you have to do. You can't just walk out in the middle of the day and come back in 10 days.
Right.
And have it be, and
there might be a
you
missing
need to do these
missing persons report file.
Right, but all that is also covered in the extensive training.
It is, it absolutely is. But certainly you can understand that a lot of folks, again, we're addressing this in the actual marketing, which this means for startups.
Yes.
So a lot of people who are startups are going to get up on the internet and they're going to start absorbing as much as they can off of the internet. And unfortunately, when you're absorbing some of that, there's a lot of fertilizer out there. Understand what I mean by that. There's also a lot of old fertilizer out there, or maybe stuff that was true 6 years ago, 8 years ago. I actually look back at some of the manuals and training curriculum that I wrote in the early days of this, and I cringe at what I actually put in writing and told people to do. But we as an industry have matured. We understand a lot more about the printers. This is a generation 4 and a generation 5 of machines for us, all right? So the nightmares that you used to hear about on a daily basis are now our concerns weekly. The things we used to worry about weekly are now our monthly concern.
Right.
And the things we worry about monthly, some of them we don't even worry about at all anymore because the machines just take care of it. So it's not a huge amount of concern for a week, week and a half. Now, if you tell me 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, as long as you're doing that once a year, then it's not a bad idea to once a year flush out your systems anyway. Take advantage of that time to go ahead and do a flush, and then you leave your flushing or cleaning solution in the machine during that period of time, and then recharge it when you come back.
You have to prepare to leave it for that long.
Right,
Now,
exactly.
the waste ink question was an interesting one because I'm sure that person has looked online and found you may not know, but this wastes so little ink during cleanings and during maintenance versus most other brands on the market.
Well, I mean, this is just a little side note, but it's a story. Our ink manufacturer came to me probably 3 years ago and wanted to know why, with the growth of the marketplace, that in machine sales, why our sales incrementally weren't going up in the ink environment.
Yes.
And I said, I'll be honest with you, more of your ink is ending up on shirts than in garbage cans.
Right. The way
Because as the marketplace has matured, the machines have gotten better.
Yeah.
Customers have become better at their practices. We've become better at our training.
Yeah.
Right? And so actually a very small percent, I would say in the early days with white ink, I would say 50% of the white ink never hit a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Back in the 2007, 2008.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, now it's probably 97% of it does hit shirts.
We got another great question. How often do new generation machines come to the market, and how long ago were these machines bought?
Good point. Thanks, Cheryl. We're weird. We have two types. We kind of keep two machines at all given time. After our initial machine came out, we actually overlapped that with our second machine.
Yep.
And since that point, we've kind of folded them to their out. This machine's about 3.5 years old. I would consider this machine roughly halfway through its life cycle.
Mhm.
This machine we've been selling for about 6 months.
But
But
it was available overseas
It's
for
overseas,
about
yeah.
a year
We-
before that.
we kind of let the people in Europe test
We
stuff first.
do.
So, but no,
So by the
it's-
way, I want to point out that if you see if you're searching about the Viper 2 and you see a lot of technical questions and things like that from a year ago,
not us.
it's all the UK. It's all folks in the UK.
We kind of let them flesh it out. And the European marketplace is a little more tolerant than we are about that stuff. And there's just a bunch of countries, so you can let
We don't do growing pains well.
We don't,
we
no.
get rid of all that stuff
Exactly.
as much as possible.
So your answer to your question is roughly every 2.5 to 3 years, we're probably going to have a new model. But I will be standing here with maybe my hand on a different machine here and my hand still on this machine here.
Yeah.
We've not ever really killed, and I don't even want to say killed, because what we do is we sell out a line. We make a commitment to a given period of time to buy a certain number of components, and when we get to that point, we transition out of the model.
And I'm going to imagine your next question, and that's on the longevity. How long do the machines last?
Well, I mean, we have people out there, if you've done any homework, I'm sure the word DTG kiosk has come up. We have DTG kiosk. The first one of those I sold for us would have been in probably January or February of 2006.
Yeah.
We brought them right at the end of 2005. We've been selling another brand which no longer exists in the first year we were in the market. And there are still people who are running those. I get calls from people, I get emails from people who are still running the machines from 2006, which, by the way, we're nowhere near the ruggedness of these machines.
Right.
Nowhere near the quality of the capping station. The inks weren't as good and all whatnot. So what would I consider a realistic duty cycle on a digital printer?
Yes.
Figure out a way to make it pay for itself and you being comfortable with it in 3 years, and you're going to be way ahead of the game.
Exactly.
You know?
And Cheryl's got to follow up. Once a brand or a model is no longer available, do you still service them?
Within reason, yes. We have just in the last about 2 years stopped servicing the initial kiosks. We still offer service on the HM1, which was the generation following.
6
The
years
HM1
old.
is more than that, probably 6 to 7. We still service the Vipers. We work on these two. Those are the 5 core models we've had over the years. So yes, within reason, typically within about 3 to 4 years after a model is discontinued, parts are going to start to become obsolete simply because, especially on the entry-level models, they're based off of Epson printers, and Epson themselves starts to discontinue the parts. With the M2, one of the upsides to the M2 is it is a partnership with a large format plotter manufacturer, so we have a little bit longer OEM life on that product.
How are you able to print on both cotton, blended, and polyester garments?
How are you?
Yeah.
Well, number one, on the cottons and on the the cottons is straightforward, right? All printers print on cotton. And when you're printing on polys, you can only print on lights. Everybody in the market can only print on light polys. White ink does not work on polys for reasons that may not make sense to
Technical
you.
ones, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not because of the ink.
Right.
It's because of the poly, all right? But there are pre-treatments that you can use on either machine that will allow you to print on poly. In fact, I may have Chase Markoff. You want to go grab the
Yeah,
sleeves
sure.
and stuff? Okay.
Yeah,
We'll show you some that we've done. So you don't think it's just white shirts, all right? It's a matter of a pre-treatment that's going to hold it in. When you think about poly, think about the fact that poly is comfortable because it keeps moisture away from you. It wicks moisture away, right? The problem is ink is moisture. So we have to overcome some of that in the shirt with extra binders that actually hold the inks to the shirt. But we certainly can do that using a pre-treatments that we sell through our supply division, Coleman & Company. It's a good question. You know, the price breakout between the machines. I'm not going to give exact prices here on the show. I'm going to use percentages. At the end, we'll do a little cutoff, right? And I'll give you some price breakouts on the machine for promos we're running right now. But suffice to say, you're looking typically a general package with the same comparable items from a Viper 2 to an M2. You're going to be in the 25, 28% range. Typically, this machine being that much more expensive than this machine. All right. Hey, well, Mark.
I'll be Vanna.
This is a pink. That's a 100% polyester shirt. As you can see, we've printed it with a gray, basically a half tone of our DTG logo. That was done using I think that was done on the M2.
It was.
And we just used the pre-treat for the poly. These are a pair of really uncomfortable looking shorts because they're slickery, right? Like basketball shorts. Again, poly pre-treat. And then I think we get that baby aspirin orange on the sleeve, right?
That is exactly the color. And just so you know, you can print on other things other than just the center of the chest. So here's a sleeve.
Right, that's a sleeve that we did on a poly. All right, so it looks like we have a question from Heather. Yeah, it's a good question. When you are printing with white ink, you need to pre-treat. That is absolutely correct. All printers. The reason for that is white ink has to exist on the surface of the shirt. The only way you can get that to happen is change the white ink after it's jetted. The pre-treatment changes it so that the moisture falls out and you're able to get your inks up on top of the shirt and then get the print down into it. Okay? Another difference between the machines is the way that the platen system is set up. And what I'm going to do is Mark's not here, so I get to drive. I'm going to get both of these printers printing. One thing that's absolutely the same is where I'm about to go here now is the software, right? Is the RIP software is the identical software. It just has different cues for the different printers. So I am going to, don't ever pirouette like that again. If you guys could see what I would see, you would.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. At least you took the tutu off. All right, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to swing you guys. Again, as Mark said, if you have some problems losing video or whatnot, just restart and you'll be fine.
I was wondering if you're ever going to actually print anything.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to print something now. I'm turning off the camera, and now you all should be able to see the computer screen. And I'm going to bring up our software. Hopefully now it's not locking up on me because I went there.
No, it's just
There it is. I just didn't go down far enough. Okay, this is our RIP software. RIP stands for Raster Image Processor. It's just a nice way of saying it's a Mac Daddy print driver for your printers. One of the specialty things that it does in our world is it brings in the ability to create our white underbase. So when I bring in a graphical file, what it's going to do is it's actually using the content of that file, it's going to generate my underbase for a dark shirt. Right here, as you can see, I'll move this out of your way so you can see, I've already loaded up a design here, and this is for black shirts, and I've got this in my Viper black graphics quality mode. I've actually already spooled the job right here, and you can see this job is going to cost $1.81 to print. It's a pretty big size file. It's about a 13-inch wide by about 18-inch high design. So I'm just going to go ahead and release this job.
Is this the largest print area on any DTG printer in its class, or is it?
Certainly in its
Yeah.
class it is.
Yeah.
When you start looking at some of the competition out there, they're typically going to be a 14 by 16 at most.
Gotcha.
We're printing 16 and a half by 24. All right. So while it's happily printing, you'll see that we have basically in here, we have setting a super cube for color shirts, one for black shirts, one for printing white only, white shirts. We have different settings in here we've played around that are our master queues, and under them we have specialty queues. Even to the point, it's in here somewhere, we actually have a queue for Darla. Darla does our samples. We actually have a queue called Darla Samples. So you can actually set up your own queues as well. Question is, do the images need to be rasterized, not vectorized when designing? Good question, Heather. If you're working in Illustrator or you're working in CorelDRAW, two of the more common graphic softwares for vectors, we actually have the ability, when you install the RIP software on the computer, you guys don't see what I'm doing with my hands, I don't know why I'm doing it. When you install the RIP software onto your computer, it's actually going to add export filters directly into the RIP. So if you design in raster and vectors, don't worry about it. If you're working in Photoshop, you can drag and drop this file straight in from Photoshop. You'll actually see under here, if I go into import, and you go down here, I keep covering up stuff, all right? Here are our supported file types. I support bitmaps, GIFs, JPEGs, PNGs, TIFFs, Photoshop files, PostScript files, both PS and TMP, encapsulated PostScripts, EPS, Adobe Illustrator, and PDF files. Those are all supported directly within this.
But if you have an ugly GIF file that you copy and pasted from the internet, this software is not going to make it look
Right,
like that.
especially some of the sites that Mark goes to.
It's true.
Do you want to show them what's happening in here?
We can do that if you want to bring the camera over. We're going to show you what's actually going on in the printer. So yes, you can bring all those file formats in, so you don't have to worry. If you've got a good vectorized file, put it out as an AI. Almost every program that you work with, you can now put it as an EPS or an AI. You can bring it straight in, or you can export it straight in from the software itself, if it's Corel or Illustrator.
All right, you want to show them what's happening?
Yep, we're going to show you. Oh, yeah, I got to do that.
You have to do that, yeah.
All right, so we're
I'm
getting ready
holding the camera.
to make it ugly again here. I'm going to turn off the screen. I'm going to bring back up. People can see you.
Oh, it definitely did get ugly. Okay.
There we are. We're back. But you can see the printer is generating our white underbase. If you can zoom in there a little bit more, Mark, you can actually see where it kind of looks blurry on the edges. It's not blurry on the edges. It's actually because that kind of fades away into the shirt. It's actually putting less white ink down than it's putting down less white ink in those areas because that doesn't need as much white ink because it fades off.
And this is a very quiet printer, by the way. I don't know. You probably can't hear anything
Right.
happening.
Probably what they hear is the M2 circulating.
Yeah,
in the back.
absolutely.
And while we're on that, that is another difference between the machines. It's a cartridge-based machine, which is nice. It's highly pressurized. You basically every morning you have to open it up, take your cartridges off, and agitate them. Whereas the M2 is going to circulate the ink for you when you're operating, and also in periods of non-use.
We get this question on every webinar.
Yeah, I
Is
don't
it
care
compatible
what,
with the Mac?
if we did a webinar on fillet knives,
Yes.
people would want to know if it works on their Mac. No. You can do your design work. I think it's that Carrie. Yeah. Carrie, you can do your design work on a Mac and then bring it across, okay? However, nobody has written a RIP for the direct-to-garment market for a Mac yet. Probably won't because the cost of development are so high.
Yeah.
And really, the software itself is horsepower driven. So you don't want to tie up your $2,500 Power Mac or whatever it is to drive a printer when you can do it with a $600
Yeah, PC.
PC, but still print with your Mac type of file.
Couple more questions there.
Does the printer come with a design software that has preloaded designs? You're welcome, Carrie. No, it does not. The printer does come with a program that allows you to do basic design work.
If you don't have
If you do
Photoshop
not
or
have
Corel.
Photoshop, let's say you wanted to go portable on a laptop. It does have a software. I don't even remember the name of it.
GIMP.
GIMP. I wanted to say LIMP.
Yeah, no,
GIMP,
GIMP.
which is an open format design software similar to Photoshop, is included with it. If you're getting into this seriously, I wouldn't base that as my main tool. I would get Photoshop or Illustrator to do my work with. And it certainly doesn't have preloaded designs because those are so available. Understand, it's just a printer.
Right.
Right? gonna
In
put
the
out,
end, it is just
you
a
can
printer.
go up and get tons of clip art. If you buy Corel, there's probably 8 or 10,000 pieces of clip art just with Corel itself.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then one thing, cool. Well, Mark's there. Do me a favor. Zoom on that label. It's one of the things that differentiates us from the competition, I think, is this is what we tell you to do. Before printing, every day, what to do daily, how to maintain these items. That is right on the front of every printer we have. We have a different decal over here on the M2, but we really want to make sure that you understand what it takes daily to get into your work. And it's not, as you see, it's not a lot.
So how long does it take to run through your daily maintenance?
5 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
Understand that with the printers, you do your maintenance on the back end. More of your daily maintenance is done on the back end than on the front end. So you'll do a nozzle check and things. It just check sure everything's working perfectly right up front. But at the end of you've done 50 or 60 shirts, you're going to clean it up before you put it to bed.
Yeah.
And that's a 5 to 6 minute type of job. Are you able to get a soft feel, or does it depend on the garment? Certainly, Carrie, when you print on a light colored shirt where there's no white ink, you're going to get zero feel. When you print on a dark shirt, you will have some hand associated with it. You can reduce the hand by reducing the amount of white that you put on it. At the sacrifice of the amount of white, you will get images that won't pop quite as much. However, it is what some people desire.
So
Also, using a good shirt
right.
will help as well.
But it depends on the design, right? If you have a lot of space between the design as opposed to just a solid block.
Yeah, that was a very technical description.
Thanks.
Saying
Thanks.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. This design, for instance, is not going to have a lot of hand. It's going to have a lot of color, right? But there's not a whole lot of ink coverage here, so that's going to be good. If I was printing a photograph this large that was blocky on a T-shirt, it's going to have a hand. There's no way around it.
Heather wants to know on the M2, do you have to leave it on its bottom from delivery, or can you turn it on it gently on its side to get it through doors that are standard size?
Yes, you can. Once you've got the ink in it, though, right?
You can't.
And what I do encourage people to do is when you get an M2, because these don't just come in, we just slam them out the door to you. Generally, they'll run some cleaning solution through them, do some testing to make sure the machines are functional. So there's a waste tank in it. You probably want to remove the waste tank bottle, and you probably just want to verify that the bottles are empty, or even remove the bottles on the back of the system before you turn it, just in case there's any residual in there of the cleaning solution.
Yep.
All right. And then turn it, it's fine. When you turn it this way, Mark, when you turn it that way, there we go. When you turn it north-south, it's going east-west, but you're fine. That'll fit through a standard door that way. We've had folks do that before. All right. All right. Other question. What is gosh, I love this. We got a great group of people.
Yeah, I know, but they're really good questions.
I really appreciate you guys. What is the shelf life of the white ink? Typically about 6 months. Let's put it this way. If you have to worry about that, probably
you're not making enough money.
You're not making enough money. When you buy the cartridges are 150 milliliters each, which that will print anywhere from, say, on the low side, it might print 20 shirts. On the high side, it might print 45 to 50 dark shirts. So that's not a lot. And on the liters of white ink, again, same concept. If you're not going through that in 6 months, that's saying you're not printing more than 25, 30 shirts a month. We find that the average consumer on the Viper2s, we're still building a profile of this.
Yeah.
Because it's only been out for about 6 months. But the average consumer is going through in the area of 1 to 2 sets of cartridges a month. And our average consumer on the M2 is going through about 3 liters to up to 5 liters of ink per month, based on if they made the right decision on what they bought.
Right.
I'm
going to bring this back around to you, Don.
Okay. Got anybody else on there? No more questions? I don't see any more questions. Awesome. How do I clear these out, Mark? Just grab one.
Delete. Hit the little garbage bucket. That means delete.
I can just do that. Delete.
Yep.
No, I'm not going to dismiss Heather. I like Heather. Mark has to drive this part. My bad. Other questions on the machines? You guys have had some great questions.
Right,
Yep. I think we got all those. Oh, I see. That's a garbage can on the side of it. I couldn't see that closely. So, to answer the question, what machine do you get for your business? You really have to, at any point, you have to determine where you are, where you plan on being. Are you going to need to go portable? Do you foresee this as being something that you're going to run 5 days a week? Then I think that probably the M2 is the way to go. If you see it as more just an add-on into your business, or you're going to have to go portable, or you live in a house that you don't want to use a chainsaw, then you probably ought to look at the
And there's
Viper
a price difference too.
right? Somebody was asking about training. Absolutely. When you buy a machine from us, they do come with training. That's a good question.
Who's asking, can we pay for training?
Well, if you're buying a machine, the machine comes with the training. And that's one thing Mark, when he was on the support side earlier, I don't know if he showed you, I don't think he did. Right there, you can register for the training. With the two main ways that we train on these machines is live online training or in-house training. We have an office here in Tampa, office in New Jersey. But by far, the largest percentage of it is live online. So as a customer of ours, as long as you own your machine, and as long as we are still offering training on that machine, like if you come to us with a kiosk, we are not going to train you for free live online because we have no machine to train you with. We will still train you or your employees for free. So if you bring in an employee 6 months from now or a year from now who needs to learn how to use direct-to-garment printer, your direct-to-garment printer, sign them up for training, and they can go through the training. All right? Looks like we got a question that popped up down there at the bottom.
Yep.
Mark's getting excited. The shirt just came out.
The shirt came out. The M2 is the only one that currently comes with P30i ink, right? And how are they different?
I mean, there's not a huge difference. And I explained this a bit to your husband earlier today. The P30i only does come with the M2. Part of that reason is we try to drive prices to this machine more budget minded. It is a slightly less expensive ink. It is an ink that is certainly more conducive at this point to an open system like we have with the bulk ink system on the M2. Mark's going to show you a beautiful shirt.
Would you say we get a little bit different in print quality on polys on the P30i or no?
We do certainly on light poly. If you're going to be doing a lot of light polys, the P30i inks do have a better pop, and they're easier to work with on the light colored polys.
We need to work up some kind of mask for you like
there
this.
We go.
That is a huge print, by the way. You're not very often going to be printing this.
That's right, exactly.
Okay.
Secondarily, and again, Heather, as I spoke to Derek today about, when you launch a new machine, you want everything that you want to have control over it. The Viper2 is 6 months old, right? When we brought the machine in, we felt so much more comfortable with the ink set we've been using for 7 or 8 years that we felt it was the right ink to put into this machine so that we could monitor. We've been selling this machine for almost 2 years when we started putting P30Is into it. So we understood the hardware configuration. We didn't want to be blaming the poor Viper2, right?
Yeah.
The problem
Absolutely.
when it was maybe the ink, right? Whereas if we have challenges over here on ink flow when we first came out with the P30i, guess what? We knew it wasn't the printer, that we could point back to the ink.
But they still, again, the print quality looks identical.
Identical.
Right.
Trust me, there are times when you might just get a sample. If you don't request whichever machine we send it out, we print it on is what it got sent on.
It's the same.
It certainly is the same.
So
they're profiled differently, and that's in the RIP based on the profile.
I know you haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, let's look at the differences. Check these.
How long do I heat press this shirt for, by the way? To finish.
Long enough. Three. All right. So platen system on the Viper2. This is where we do differentiate. The Viper2 has what's called our 421 platen system. These are 7.5 by 11.5. There are 4 of them. That's the 4.
You can print, how many shirts at once can you print on that?
4.
4 shirts at the same time.
That gets Mark
1, 2,
excited.
3, 4. It's the only printer on the market that will print 4 shirts at
No,
one
it's
time.
not. The M2 will too.
It's the only other printer on the market that will print 4 shirts
All right.
at once.
Jeez. All right. Like I said, we're our worst enemy sometimes. 4 7.5 by 11.5. We have cappers that do 11.5 by 16.5. We have the big capper, which is what we use on that. Print to Mac Daddy, which is 16.5 by 24. Very versatile, one-up platen system. Really, the only other one we virtually ever sell is, if you can see it back here, is a dual sleeve type. Oh, get out completely out
Yeah, down
a
the
dual
bottom.
sleeve. Now that's a dual sleeve actually for the M2, but all of our platens pretty much can be configured for any printer that's have a different base. All right. When you deal with the M series, as you see over here, we have 2 shirts loaded up. These are the standard adult size platens that come with it. You can print 2 of these. We have a dual infant, which kind of emulates the 2 up here. We have dual sleeve. We have a toddler size. We have a lot of different sizes. There's actually more versatility in platens for the Viper 2, and they're actually a little bit less expensive on the Viper 2 because you don't have the super base that you have to pay for with that. Other questions about the specifics between the 2 machines?
Let's print something on the other machine.
This machine?
Yeah.
You're going to be having it loaded back up, huh?
We'll just make something
Did you
happen.
change
while
the
I
screen?
talk. I did. You're all
All
set.
right. So now you didn't get to see this so much on the last one. I'm under black shirts. And we have, by the way, you will not have this many queues. I'm driving every printer, and there are printers in Poughkeepsie right now that are going off with what I've got set up here. So I'm going to print on the M series, all right? And I'm going to go to Black Graphics Best. And what I want to tell it to do, and I've already done it here, I've actually chosen, and I'm going to go ahead and undo that, all right? I'm going to undo, just remove these designs, all right? Here's where I choose my platens. I'm going to do 2 shirts, which are my 2 adult platens, same image. I have some options under here. 1 up, which is to do both. 2 up, which is different,
Two different
shirts.
Right.
I have 2 up rotate, 2 up U. Rotate would turn my design so the collar to the left or the right, to the top or the bottom. All these, and you can generate your own. You have default template. You can generate your own. We're going to use the 2 up same. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to grab my image here from my import files. I'm going to do the one you saw I had on the screen there we call butterfly. We're just going to open that image up. And because I told it 2 up, it's going to place both of them centered on the platens, right? And when I size them, if I size these down a little bit, sizes both of them, I bring them both up. I want to print them up here a little bit closer to the collar. Bang. Probably want to come down a little bit because I got my collar pretty close to it. Right, there we go. All right, now I want to go through and I'm going to rip these only. I like to do this myself twofold. Number, make sure I didn't screw anything up. Number 2, it also gives me pricing. As long as the queue has been set up, I think all of our queues have. You see, every time we keep adding queues and play with stuff, sometimes we don't set each queue up for pricing. Yep, this one. That's the price per image.
Right. So 39 cents an ink.
Correct, because it only really ripped one of them, so it just calculated the price for one. Now, if I'd done 2 different images here, it actually would have a breakout here. This would be the total for the whole print job.
Right.
And this would be the end. There would be 1 and 2. If this was, let's say I did the face and I did the umbrella. Okay. All right. The umbrella. The butterfly. It's not an umbrella, Mark. What do you mean? So now I'm just going to tell it to print, and you'll hear it's getting started in the background again. All right. So now while we're doing that, I'm going to jump over here, and Tim is loading up 4 up on our Viper 2, and I'm going to go to the white shirt mode. I'm going to go in. I'm going to remove this item from the queue. All right. I'm going to go to white graphics best. All right. And then here I'm going to bring in, I want to go down to my settings, go to my 4 up. All right. I'm going to go up to 4 up. Where's my standard 4 up? Okay. Different prints. Let's do 4 up toddler, different prints. Okay. So these are going to separate. I'm going to bring in, and I want to do a design. Oh, you want me? You're allowed to talk, Tim. Tim's here. He's pointing. Yes. That's what I selected. Yes. Oh, yeah.
This is the Viper 2.
You know, did I mention it's getting late here?
Yeah.
And that was the Viper 2. All right. There we
got to
do.
compress things a little bit.
Viper 2 white quality, white graphics quality. We're going to go to white graphics quality. We're going to go to the 4 up 2 V2 to the same, right? So I want to do 2 across. And this may not look right. I'm going to back off a little bit so you see what I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at my platen configuration here, right? It looked almost like what we did over here on the M2. So we're going to go in here and we're going to import a file. This is a pretty cool file that I like to print. That is, is one that was done by a customer of ours, actually, down in Colombia.
Yeah.
Right? Bringing that into those positions. You see these are number 2 here. We're going to design size those down just a hair. All right, they stay centered on it. And then I'm going to go down to my next. I'm going to add another file. And what the heck? This is a pretty cool looking file. Import that one. That's going to pop into my other 2 positions.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll size that down just a hair. All right. So while this is going on, while I'm printing on the other, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rip this as well. And done processing that, bang. We come over here, see this is 15 cents. All right. And, all right, so what I want to do at this point is, if I click down that down arrow, I come over here and see the breakout is on the top design, about a nickel per shirt, and on the bottom design, about a dime per shirt. So these are a nickel a piece to print, these are a dime a piece to print. All right, we're going to go ahead and print these now. And this is going to be going to the Viper2, as I'm being reminded.
And in the last few minutes of the webinar here, so people can see
Yep.
what they're printing, would you switch back over to the camera? We'll let them
No
take a look.
question pops up, maybe everybody left. All right, here we are.
And that's what it looks like to print more than one shirt at the same time.
Yep, as you can see right now, we're printing the white layer on the M2, on the dark shirt.
Good.
And over here, you can't see what over here is because Mark keeps moving that camera around on me.
Here it is. I'm going to move it over
All
here.
right.
There you
I'm
go.
going to get out of the way. Over here, we're actually working on printing 2 white shirts. So let me have, can we, if you saw the cables,
Yeah,
across it,
yeah,
it's getting a little scary.
It's hazardous.
All right, let me go ahead and pull that up. You can see that they're printing 2
Let's
white
do-
shirts at a
let's
time.
do this.
There we go. We see we're printing, this is the ace.
Wow, that color
It's a
looks
Queen of
great.
Hearts, which is awesome.
That looks great.
All right.
Okay.
And by the way, Mark, what are we doing right now?
We're printing on more. We're actually printing on 6 shirts
simultaneously
at the same
right?
time. We've
Okay.
never done that before. So I'm going to
All
move
right.
this back.
So you kind of get a feel for the machines right now. And, you know, you're fitting your budget and whatnot. That could be part of it. And the upside is hey, if you buy one of, I keep turning the wrong way because I'm looking at the screen.
Look at the camera.
Is it Monday yet?
Yes.
Friday yet?
Yes.
With this machine, say you buy it in a year from now, you say, right at the end, you're done. You know, I really feel like we need more output. We're going to give you an 80% trade-in value towards this.
Yeah.
So you're not really risking a whole lot. If literally at any point other than the first week, but within 6 months, you say, I am doing so much work that I feel more comfortable with a little bit more throughput, a little bit larger heavy-duty motors and whatnot on the machine, you're out 20%. What does that really translate into? I'm pretty sure that you made it up just on what
Right.
you got from this machine.
Absolutely.
All right?
All right, we have just another minute or so for question. Let's have them. What
Sure.
questions do you have about the M2 and the Viper2? Good questions only.
You guys have done a great job. By the way, we
Yeah.
do these quite often. Mark and I, this has got to be our 10th or 12th at least we've done on
Yeah.
the DTGs.
Yeah. It's a good one.
And this has been some of the best questions we've ever had.
Yeah, we appreciate
Which
that.
is good to us because, too, you know, I hate to break this to you. We're doing this so you buy stuff from us.
Right.
All right?
And Don
And
will
when
make
you ask
stuff
good
up.
questions, guess what? They're probably going to buy stuff.
Yeah. And
And that's-
you mean it highlights what's great about these printers? That's
No,
what-
right, it does. You guys, you know, you're asking the right questions. You know, understand that too many people have gone into this marketplace kind of blind, and having questions like you guys have is good.
Okay, if I go mobile with the Viper2, can it handle vibration from traveling?
Can it handle? I was reading the question. I don't trust you. I've known him long enough. Can you go mobile? Vibration, well, understand vibration and going
Are you off-roading? or
mobile
are you...
to me is a little different. That's my golf cart up in the woods. All right. No, if you're driving around like in a trailer or something like that, and you're staying on standard roads, you're fine. I wouldn't stress over that. You certainly,
SUV is great.
you know, my gut says is if you're going to take it to an event, I would be more inclined to put it in the back of my SUV than to put it in the trailer
Yes,
until you got to the
absolutely.
event. And Jennifer, yes, we'll go over pricing. What we're going to do is we're going to make a cut at the end of this so that we can actually use this in the future and not talk prices. But I will right after the fact, I will go ahead and do a price breakout for you. So there'll be a little commercial so that we can do that. Worked out well last time we did that.
Danny's going to treat it as fine china. It won't fit in your dishwasher, Danny. I don't know what you're thinking. But.
Treat it like Corningware.
All right, so I'm going to stop now. I'm going to basically stop recording.
Okay, yes. Thank you all for being here. Don't go anywhere. I'm getting ready to start sharing prices with you. And thanks for coming to our webinar.